Have you ever noticed that some people treat saving money like it's a competitive sport? They're clipping coupons, hunting for promo codes, driving across town to save 12 pence on petrol, and feeling guilty every time they spend money on anything that isn't absolutely necessary. And look, I get it. For most of our lives, we're told that being financially responsible means spending less, saving more, and avoiding unnecessary purchases, which is generally good advice. But here's something that took me way too long to understand. Saving money and building wealth are not the same thing. In fact, there are situations where obsessing over saving money can actually make you poorer, and that's the part nobody talks about. Because saving money feels productive, it feels responsible, it feels like you're winning. But sometimes what looks like financial discipline is actually financial hesitation. You're protecting pounds when you should be building opportunities. You're avoiding costs that could create much larger returns. You're focusing on what's leaving your wallet instead of what's coming back into it. Now, before anyone starts typing angry comments, I'm not saying you should start buying things you can't afford. I'm not saying budgeting doesn't matter. And I'm definitely not saying that debt is suddenly your friend. What I am saying is that there are specific moments where the cheapest decision is actually the most expensive one. And understanding those moments can completely change the speed at which you build wealth. My name is Dan, and I spend way too much time thinking about how regular people can build real financial security without becoming boring, miserable, or obsessed with spreadsheets. Today, I want to walk through 4 times. Saving money is actually the wrong move. The first one costs people thousands. The second keeps people trapped in careers they hate. The third silently steals years of progress. And the fourth might be the biggest wealth-building mistake of all. Let's get into it. Wrong move. Number 1. When saving money prevents you from making more money. Most people think financial success starts with cutting expenses. And to a point, that's true. You can only trim so much fat from a budget. But eventually you hit a ceiling. There's only so many streaming subscriptions you can cancel. Only so many coffees you can skip. Only so many restaurant meals you can avoid. At some point, your ability to save more becomes limited. But your ability to earn more, that's often much larger. Here's what I see all the time. Someone refuses to spend $500 on a professional certification that could increase their income by $5,000 per year. Someone won't spend money learning a new skill that could help them qualify for a promotion. Someone avoids investing in tools, education, or training because they're focused on protecting cash. And on paper, they're saving money. But in reality, they're sacrificing future income. Let's say a course costs $1,000. A lot of people immediately focus on the cost. What if it doesn't work? What if I waste the money? Fair questions, but almost nobody asks the opposite question. What if it does work? What if that course helps you earn an extra $200 per month? That's $2,400 per year. The investment pays for itself in months and continues producing value for years. The wealthiest people I know don't ask, how can I avoid spending money? They ask, how can I turn this money into more money? That's a completely different mindset, and it creates completely different results. The goal isn't minimizing every expense. The goal is maximizing return on investment. Because sometimes spending $1,000 is actually the cheapest way to make $10,000. Wrong move. Number 2. When saving money keeps you stuck in the wrong job. Here's a painful truth. A lot of people stay in jobs they dislike because they're afraid of spending money during a transition. They'll spend years being underpaid because changing careers feels risky. They'll avoid relocating for a better opportunity. They'll avoid starting a business. They'll avoid taking calculated risks. Why? Because uncertainty has a price tag attached to it. And saving money feels safer than spending it. But here's the hidden cost. Every year you remain significantly underpaid is expensive. Let's imagine you're earning $45,000. You have an opportunity to move into a role paying $60,000. But making that transition might require additional training, networking, certifications, temporary income disruption. Maybe it costs $3,000. Maybe it costs $5,000. Many people immediately reject the idea. Too expensive, too risky, too uncomfortable. But if the move increases your income by $15,000 annually, what exactly are you saving? You're avoiding a short-term expense while accepting a long-term loss. And that's the trap. Sometimes people focus so much on preserving stability that they accidentally preserve mediocrity. The safest-looking option isn't always the safest option, because the real risk isn't always spending money. Sometimes the real risk is staying exactly where you are. And the longer you delay a meaningful career move, the larger the opportunity cost becomes. The money you didn't spend feels smart. The income you never earned stays invisible. That'd be wrong move number 3, when saving money costs you time. This one is huge, and honestly, I think it gets more important as you get older. When you're younger, you often have more time than money. As you get older, that relationship starts to flip. You have career responsibilities, family responsibilities, household responsibilities, a million things competing for your attention. And yet many people still make decisions as if their time has no value. They'll spend 3 hours trying to save $20. They'll spend entire weekends doing things they hate because paying someone else feels wasteful. They'll become obsessed with tiny savings while sacrificing enormous amounts of time. Here's the question: what is an hour of your life worth? Not philosophically, practically. If you're earning $30 per hour and spending 4 hours trying to save 15, something isn't adding up. Now, obviously, not every task should be outsourced. That's not realistic. But the principle matters. There comes a point where optimizing for money instead of time becomes backwards. Because time is the one resource you never get back. You can earn more money. You can rebuild savings. You can recover from financial mistakes. You cannot create more years, and wealthy people understand this intuitively. They aren't constantly asking, what's the cheapest option? They're asking, what's the highest value use of my time? Those are very different questions. Sometimes paying for convenience isn't laziness. It's leverage. Sometimes spending money is what allows you to focus on the things that actually move your life forward. And that's a trade worth making. Wrong move number 4. When saving money stops you from investing. This is the biggest one, and it's probably the most common because it feels incredibly responsible. Someone spends years building cash savings. Their account balance grows. They feel secure. They feel prepared. They feel financially disciplined. But meanwhile, inflation quietly does its thing, and their money sits there doing almost nothing. Now, don't get me wrong, emergency funds are important. Cash reserves matter. Liquidity matters. But after a certain point, excessive cash becomes expensive. Let's use a simple example. Imagine 2 people. Both save consistently. Both are disciplined. Both earn similar incomes. The first person accumulates $100,000 in cash over many years and leaves it sitting there. The second person keeps a healthy emergency fund but invests the rest into diversified long-term assets. 10 years later, the difference can be enormous. Why? Because investing allows money to compound. Cash preserves, investments grow, and those are 2 very different jobs. Most people think saving is the goal. It's not. Saving is the bridge. Investing is what gets you across. The purpose of saving money is not to admire the number in your account. The purpose is to eventually deploy that money into assets that can work on your behalf. That's where wealth starts accelerating. That's where compounding starts becoming visible. That's where money begins producing more money. And that's the transition many people never make. They become excellent savers, but poor investors. And unfortunately, saving alone rarely creates financial freedom. Doubles a common objection. Now you might be thinking, okay, but isn't this dangerous advice? Why shouldn't people be careful with money? Absolutely. Being intentional with money matters. The point isn't to spend recklessly. The point is to understand the difference between an expense and an investment. Some purchases destroy value. Some purchases create value. Some purchases buy temporary pleasure. Others buy future opportunity. The challenge is learning to tell the difference. And that's where financial maturity really begins. Not when you stop spending money, but when you start spending it strategically. Because the goal isn't to save every pound. The goal is to make every pound work as hard as possible. Numbers sets conclusion. The biggest financial mistake isn't always spending too much. Sometimes it's saving too aggressively in the wrong places. Because there are moments when saving money protects your present but hurts your future. The four biggest ones are when saving prevents you from increasing your income, when saving keeps you stuck in the wrong career, when saving costs you valuable time, when saving stops you from investing and compounding wealth. Notice the pattern. In every case, the issue isn't the money itself. It's the opportunity being sacrificed, the growth being delayed, the future being postponed. And that's an important distinction. The people who build significant wealth aren't necessarily the people who spend the least. They're the people who understand when spending creates a larger return than saving. They know when to protect capital, and they know when to deploy it. Because wealth isn't built by hoarding every pound. It's built by putting money where it can create more value. So the next time you're about to make a financial decision, don't just ask, how much does this cost? Never ask, what is this costing me if I don't do it? That one question can completely change how you think about money. And years from now, your future self may be very grateful that you did.